Welcome back. In a story that's being a little underreported, but I think it will certainly grab the attention tomorrow, the National Guard is being deployed to our nation's capital. That is, pro-Trump protesters have already converged in the Capitol to support the president's attempt to remain in power, basically to support a coup. Many businesses boarding up their windows as they hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Well, the Proud Boys are going to be there, and that's always a cause for major concern. Hundreds of these Proud Boys rallied in D.C. last month to protest Biden's victory. It turned violent when they clashed with counter-protesters. Dozens were arrested, 4 people were stabbed, and now law enforcement is hoping to avoid anything like that this time around. I want to bring in now my next guest, Congresswoman Nanette Diaz Barragán. She a Democrat from Southern California. Congressman, give an idea of what tomorrow is going to look like and just how embarrassing it's going to make our federal government look.
Well, tomorrow in the House of Representatives, we will see a joint session of Congress. There will be a call for every state to certify the election, and we are expecting to see senators and House members object to that certification. But at the end of the day, what we will have is we will have Congress certify the election of President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that's the important part. It is an embarrassment because the courts in this country have already spoken, and all of them have said that there is no election fraud. And so what we're going to see tomorrow is an embarrassment in the sense that, we're having a party that's trying to incite protest, and we're hoping that they stay peaceful because this is a democratic process and we have to get through this.
You know, there's been no shortage of irresponsible rhetoric. A colleague of yours, Republican Congressman Chip Roy, said that if the GOP loses or President Trump loses, which he will, that there could be a full-scale hot conflict, particularly if they lose the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. The Proud Boys have descended on D.C. The National Guard's been called in. God forbid people get hurt tomorrow and the president's going to attend even one of these rallies. Do some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle, will they have blood on their hands? Where should responsibility lie? Because we all know how this ends. There seems to be a lot of political posturing, but it comes with real risk.
Well, I think every elected official has a responsibility to call for anything that happens to be very peaceful, to make sure that they're telling folks not to incite violence. And we are asking folks around the District of Columbia to stay home. We don't want people to come out and confront protesters. We're going to get the work done on the House of the floor tomorrow, and that is going to be to certify this election. We will have a President Joe Biden, and we need to focus on coming together and doing this peacefully. So I will call on my colleagues to make sure that they're doing everything they can in their rhetoric and their language to make it peaceful. If you're going to exercise your right to protest, to do that peacefully and with mask on and try to do the social distancing. It's sad when we see our colleagues on the other side using rhetoric that would lead some to believe that they're calling for violence.
You know, Congresswoman, there was a feeling among some that, hey, when Biden gets inaugurated in late January and Trump leaves, there'll be a return, sure, to a partisan Washington, but it won't be like what we've seen for the past 4 years. But then we see what's going to happen tomorrow on the Hill and some of the rhetoric involved. Will the fever break, do you believe, when Trump leaves, or is this just the new normal and you have people that won't elect even respect-free and fair elections?
Well, I'm hopeful, and I think we should try to continue to use positive language that's going to bring us together. Unfortunately, President Trump is the one throwing fuel on the flames and just won't go and accept the results of this election, where we've seen millions and millions of voters who have made their decision. So my hope is that once January 20th comes and President Biden is inaugurated, that we will stop focusing on what he's saying and really take the coverage off of him, because the coverage needs to be on the American people's needs right now in the middle of a pandemic, and they're struggling. And so Congress has to come together to find solutions to defeat this virus, to get back to the business of governing and away from this business of governing by tweet.
Let's get back, leave the silliness on the Hill to the seriousness of what's happening back in your home district. We are seeing some really troubling signs of vital supplies like oxygen being limited for the hospitals, rationing care, no room. Talk about the scene playing out vis-a-vis COVID in area hospitals in your district, just how dire the situation has gotten.
It's really heartbreaking. It's a terrible situation that we're in. We are seeing the rationing of everything from oxygen to hospital ambulances being turned away at the hospitals. And so there's a few problems here. Number one is we need the federal government to step up in a COVID package and provide, aid and assistance both to hospitals and state and local governments, which are helping, making sure we have the staff and the folks on the ground to deal with this pandemic. But we also need to address the bigger issues, and that's staffing issues, to making sure that we have more nurses and more doctors in healthcare. And then we got to make sure people have access to the healthcare. So there's a lot of work for us to do on this front, but it is heartbreaking, and it's something that we are looking at all options on what else can be done to address the situation. Our hospitals are overrun or overwhelmed. We really need people to stay home, and stay healthy, because I think what we're seeing now is the surge from the post-holidays.
And finally, Congresswoman, regarding the vaccine, both the limited amount of vaccines that have been made available in terms of doses, but also the administering of them, is your frustration more with the federal government, or is it at the state level where this thing is not being better coordinated?
Well, my frustration is that Congress needs to help allocate funding to help with the distribution of the vaccine. My frustration is when you have the manufacturer saying, hey, we have the doses, but the federal government hasn't told us where to send them. That's a huge problem. That's why January 20th can't come fast enough, where we're going to have an administration who's going to sit down and get an actual plan together, treat this as serious as it is, to make sure that we get the vaccine out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible.
Well, Congresswoman, I appreciate the time, and I wish you the best of luck here. And I'm sure tomorrow will be a very long day, but as they say, we will get through it. Thank you again.
Great, thank you.
And up next, we're going to show you how Trump's futile and desperate attempts to overturn the elections are playing out in the papers of record from coast to coast. And I'll tell you, they don't like what they're seeing, even conservative outlets calling out the president. More on that after this.